I know people are still coming in, but I want to get through a few things so that our keynote has all the time that she needs today. Hey, you guys look fabulous. Give yourself a round of applause. You look great.
Turn this off for a minute. Dr. Paul.
I am so excited about the day. I'm excited about the panelists, the mock interviews, the resume reviews. I'm excited about how you look as business professionals. I'm excited about our keynote address. I'm excited about the business case. I'm just excited. Business case competition. Hey, I want you to be sure that you meet the professionals that we have here today, that you network with them, get their business cards, give them your card. I see some of you all have business cards. Who has business cards? Raise your hand. All right, now, that's what I'm talking about. That's great. Hey, before we begin, I just want to do a couple things. That's why I want to get, you guys keep coming on in while I do this. First of all, I want to recognize the companies and our sponsors for today. So everyone that's doing, who has mock interview, resume review, a panelist, career fair, whatever, I know most of them over here, please stand up and let the students thank you for your time and everything you've done today. Please stand up. Students, look. Look over here. Look over here. These are the people that are pouring into you today. Cindy, I ought to call you out and say, Cindy, Barron, you need to, you know, don't make me call y'all out. I'll call you out like I call these students out over it. But again, I had a chance to thank many of you this morning. And in front of all these students, I want to thank you again for your time, for pouring into our students, for your financial support, and everything you've done to make this day a success for them. And you know, every time we do something like this, no matter how hard you try, you always miss one. And I don't see her here, but I'm going to do it anyway. We had one of the ladies who had worked really hard to make sure we had people for the mock interviews and for the resume reviews that had volunteered to help us today, and we overlooked her in the booklet, which is always a mistake. But I want to thank Jacqueline Poquette. I think she's from the Eagle Group, if I remember right. Jacqueline, are you in the audience? She may still be upstairs working. But listen, students, if you have your resume and you want to get it reviewed today, even if you didn't sign up, because we've got some great resume reviewers, print your resume out, and whatever room I say won't be right. Go to room 204, 206, one of them, and we will make sure that you have a chance to get your resume reviewed. Okay? If you did not sign up for a resume review and you need your resumes reviewed, and you do, I need you to go to 206 and 204 today. Just print your resume out, stop by there. Miss Lanier is in 206, and we'll make sure you get some help, okay? All right, I'm supposed to announce that you've got these. How many of you guys tweet? Raise your hand. How many of the young people in the room are on Twitter? Raise your hand. Is that all? How many of you guys do Facebook Live? How many of y'all on Instagram? All right, Instagram. Hey, catch me as Dean Cove on Instagram, okay? What are you laughing about? Catch me as Dean. Look, on your desk is the hashtags, and I'm tweeting. I'm on Instagram. Am I going to do Snapchat today? I don't fool with Snapchat today. I'm busy. But I'm going to be out hashtag. Hey, look, let's do some Facebook Live while our keynote speaker's up. I've been doing Facebook Live all morning. Okay? Y'all got 1,000 and some followers. Okay? Don't count me short. But If you post 3 or more events with these hashtags and whatever panels you're in, you could be entered to win a $50 gift card. If you really get on social media today, the person that does the most, I'm going to do something special for you as a dean. So use social media, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, but I'm going to give you a surprise. I want you to add pictures of your favorite speakers. When this is over, come down and get pictures with our keynote speaker today, and get that out on social media and let the world know we're doing something great over here, okay? Now, without further ado, I want to bring up one of our students to introduce our keynote speaker. So I'm really proud of you. As your dean, I'm proud of you and the work that you're doing. She's not in here. I had a lady from American Airlines, and she's looking for people, all the business majors. And I told her she has come to the right place to get the best students. And I mean that. And I am proud that 2 of our students are going to be doing our introductions today. They're going to be doing the interview with our keynote speaker. I'm going to save my comments about our keynote until the end. So, Jalen, come on up, and I'm going to turn the program over to you to introduce our keynote, Miss Peggy Eddens. All right. You're welcome, baby.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Hi, like she's already said, I'm Jalen Drennan, and I'm a senior studying finance and banking with a minor in financial planning and investments. And today, I have the perfect opportunity to introduce to you someone who I've known through my internship at WSFS Bank for about 3 years now, Miss Peggy Eddens. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Capital Officer for WSFS Bank. She is also responsible for various things, including associate and customer engagement, organizational behavior, well-being, strategic planning, talent attraction, selection and retention, communications, learning and development, innovation, and community strategies. Peggy has a passion for culture and recognizes its value in lifting performance and the bottom line. Her career spans over 30 years in the financial services industry, holding a variety of senior leadership positions with Mellon Bank, Citizens Bank, and Next Tier Bank. She received her Master's of Science in Human Resource Management from La Roche College and her Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from Robert Morrison University. Some of her personal honors include being a finalist for Delaware Valley HR Department and for 2 years. She also has the Delaware HR Person of the Year Award 2 consecutive years and the 2013 Trailblazer Award, and receiving the Distinguished Alumni Circle Award from La Roche College. She is also proud of the awards bestowed upon WSFS Bank and is humbled to serve her community and does so in various capacities. Peggy is married to her high school sweetheart, Greg, and they have 2 wonderful sons. She and her husband live in Hockessin, if you're familiar with the Delaware area, and her hobbies include bird watching, walking, shopping, and reading. Peggy remains a diehard fan of Pittsburgh sports team too. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Peggy Eddens to the stage as she presents today.
You've been very nice. Yeah, good to see you. Thank you so much. 2 things we'll start off with here today. First of all, do not do the mental math and what a 30-year career actually means age-wise for me, okay? Forget about the age part of this. Secondly, don't hold it against me that I like the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. I know it's starting already. Please, you don't have to boo. It's too early for that. But I certainly respect your opinions. Thank you all for having me join you today. Let me get my little clicker. It really is a pleasure to be here. And a few years ago, those of us at WSFS got to know your dean very well and have not been able to disentangle ourselves from her. She is contagious, she's viral. We love being around her, and she allows us this kind of time. Cindy and Patrick are with us today, and I was given this honor to talk with all of you. And it really is not meant to be a speech, but rather sharing some stories and sharing a journey that I have been blessed to have, and imparting some of that as I know you are all on a journey as well. So you ready? Are you ready? Yes. All right, let's get started. So I talk about a journey and forging a path with grit and grace. And let's talk a little bit about what that means. What does it mean to have grit? I'm sure you have some thoughts in your mind. To me, it really talks about having a passion for what you do, persevering, working it through, having a can-do attitude. You don't take no for an answer too long or too much because you find your way through it. And working and living with a sense of intentionality, meaning you are intent on where you're going and what you want. And you have that intention ahead of you, and that becomes your goal. And that goal becomes fueled with your grit. But you have to balance the grit out. At least I have found that to be the case. And what does it mean to have grace? That means you're thoughtful. And even though you're going for that goal, you do it in a way that allows you to be thoughtful of others and respectful of others. Diplomacy. The bull in the china shop doesn't really last too long. Be diplomatic. You can't break a lot of that glass in that shop because sooner or later you're just not allowed back in. So be diplomatic. Let others have their voice because that's all part of your grace. Sorry, spoke too soon. Be humble and be patient. That's the grace part. When you combine the grit with the grace, for me, it's established 3 pretty simple tenets of what have been my life and my career. One is take the high road. Always take the high road. That leads you where you are meant to be. And you meet the best people on the high road. Second tenet, learn and learn more. Don't ever stop learning. I know most of you are students and you're in a world of learning. I'm still a student. I'm a student of life. I came here today to learn because I know I can learn a lot from all of you and each of you as I talk to you. And last, always stay true to who you are. There is no company, no manager, no boss, no board, no anyone who can change who you are without your permission. Don't ever give permission. Always stay true to who you are. So there's a few moments in my life that set the course for me that also helped me understand my path and also understand that sometimes there are barriers on your path. It's not always one smooth road. So I can tell you, and it's particularly meaningful to me, 2 things when I was 2 years old. One is my parents loved to show me a picture when I was around 2, 2.5, where my dad is pushing a stroller with one hand, I'm holding his other hand, and I'm standing there walking with him with the stroller. And the story that was always told to me is that I didn't want to ride in the stroller. I said, I'll walk. I don't want someone to push me in my own way, and I'll walk by myself. And to this day, I do like to walk, and I like to walk and not be pushed. I'll create my own inner push, right? And there are these moments as a child that help you determine who you will become. My parents were always good about not making me sit in the stroller. They knew it was just better to let me walk. And I did. By the time I was 3 and 3.5, it was very noticeable that I had a speech impediment. I stuttered, and I had a really difficult time saying what I wanted to say. And so my parents agreed that I needed speech therapy, which meant I went to Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, which was 2 bus rides, 1 bus, transfer, another bus, to get to Oakland in Pittsburgh, and then I would do the same to come home. My mother took me to Children's Hospital 3 times a week with my littlest sister in tow. I'm the 4th of 5 girls. And we did that for several years at Children's Hospital, and then after that continued with speech therapy through school. And I'd stay after hours. I remember at one time the therapist at Children's Hospital was talking to my mother and saying that I was doing well, and I had practices to do at home and drills that were kind of fun. And I remember being very young, but hearing her say something like, Peggy's doing really well. I can't promise you she'll be a public speaker or anything. And my mother said, oh, she will be. She will be, right? If she wants to speak, she will speak. And I was this tall, but I heard that clearly. And that was the first barrier that had to be removed, right? No barriers. Live it, dream it, be it. And that was very clear to me through the voice of my mother with my little sister sitting nicely in the stroller, by the way, making our trips back and forth to Children's Hospital. So then there was another formational moment, and this came in the first grade. I was at St. Athanasius School, and Sister Audrey was my first grade teacher, and somehow along the way they started to have these classroom presidents. Now when I went to school, there were a lot of kids in a classroom. I was the tail end of the baby boom years. So when I went to grade school, there was at least 45 kids in a classroom, desk to desk to desk. There were no assistants, there were no aides, there were no computers, there was very little technology. It was, in my case, a nun and a lot of kids. And somehow we all learned, somehow. And I learned that when I was asked to be put on the ballot to be the classroom president, I wasn't sure what that really meant. I soon learned it meant that you just did more work, you helped the sister, you took the attendance records down to the office, which was good because I kind of like to walk around, and I would do the boards after school. I actually got to do more by being so honored. But I remember coming home the night before, the day before, everyone was going to vote, and saying to my mom and my dad at the time, I don't know if I should vote for myself, because it felt like that was too proud or too boastful. And we were always raised to be very humble. One of 5 kids, and at best a 2-bedroom home with 1 bathroom. We lived modestly and we lived humbly. And I remember that formational moment when my mother said to me, if you don't vote for yourself, why should anyone else? You vote for yourself. Voting for yourself doesn't mean you think you're better than anybody else. It just means that you believe in yourself. So on your journey and on my journey, I have learned to be confident and self-assured, because that's how others will follow and others will come with me on my path, because they have a belief in me because I believe in myself. And then there was one other formational moment that takes me back with great joy to my sister 2 years older and the one 2 years younger. We would play Barbies, and I would be Midge. Many of you may not even remember Midge, but Midge, I think, was Barbie's cousin. I always thought prettier, of course, and had this reddish hair she'd put in a flip. And somehow I just liked to be Midge. So we were playing one day in our little home, and my mother was in the kitchen, and we were talking about we were getting our dolls ready to go to work. My oldest sister said, Barbie's a nurse. My younger sister said that she wanted to be a nurse, but since my older sister was a nurse, she'd be a teacher. And then they said to me, what does Midge do? I said, Midge runs a business. They went, what? I don't think so. I said, yes, she does. That immediately prompted a shout out to my mother, Mom, can Midge run a business? And my mother came in. It wasn't a very far trip. It was a very small house. And I still see her with her kitchen towel in her hands. And she said to me, Midge can be whatever she wants to be, and so can you. And the message there is there's no barriers. You be who you choose to be. And that resounded to all of us in that moment. Just for the fun of it, I will share with you my older sister, Barbie the nurse, is a director of nursing at a nursing home and a rehab center in Pittsburgh. My younger sister, who wanted to be a nurse but said, I'll be a teacher as part of our play, is the dean of nursing for the University of Rochester at Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester, New York. And in my own little way and in my own mind, I'm Midge, and I do run a business. So we all ended up becoming who we thought we might become and who my mother said we could become. But along the way, you forge your path. And I just wanted to share with you a few firsts on my path. It's not so much about being first It's about someone has to break through so others can follow, right? So it's not about I'm special because I'm not. I'm a product of many who pushed before me. I got the opportunity in a few cases to be that first so that I could open up the journey for others to follow. So I graduated, as Jaylyn was kind enough to reference, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Robert Morris University. My major was management and psychology. I carried minors in accounting and marketing. Just wanted to learn as much as I could learn about running a business. So I did that, and I did that in 2.5 years. For some reason, I wanted to get out and work. I wanted to get dressed up like I used to dress up Midge. And I wanted to go and I wanted to start doing something. So when I graduated, I was 20 years old. And I would tell you, I didn't look much past 20 years old. But I tried to put myself together, and shortly thereafter, I did turn 21. That major had mostly men at that time, or boys. Out of several hundred in my class, there were just a handful of girls, of which 2 of us ended up as the valedictorian and the salutatorian. I was the salutatorian, and a young lady named Fawn was the valedictorian. So we forged our path in what was primarily a male-driven major at the time. Of course, that's all changed. That said, I came out and went on my interviews, just ready to get that job. And I interviewed for management trainee positions. I interviewed to be a credit analyst. I interviewed to be a marketing assistant. All kinds of great opportunities. And time after time on the interview, I was asked, how many words a minute can you type? Do you take shorthand? Do you do dictation? Those were valued skills, but not mine. And I would say, no, I really don't. But I have all my coursework here, and I've did statistics 1, 2, and 3, and accounting and cost accounting, and all my list of calculus, and you name it. That this is what I did learn. Now we're really looking for someone to do more of the typing and dictation work. And so I packed up, I thought were my bag of skills and things that I learned, and just was patient, right? I had enough grit to say, no thank you. That's not what I studied to do. But I had the grace to say, I appreciate your time, and maybe our paths will cross again. And I continued on my journey. And it led me to a company called Koppers Company. That's Koppers with a K. And it's a large, I think it since had been built into and acquired. But it was a Fortune 100 company headquartered in Pittsburgh. And their offices were in the Koppers building, a nice big multi-story building right downtown Pittsburgh. And there I interviewed with a man, his name was Peter Morris, I remember him to this day, who decided he was going to make change. And his change was that he had an internal audit staff, and internal auditors were process and procedure, not necessarily the big 5 accounting type auditors. And he had an audit staff of 5 men and then 1 open position, and decided it was time to change things up and hire, I use the word woman, although I was just barely a 21-year-old girl in my mind, but decided to change that up. So I became and accepted the opportunity to be the first female auditor of this Fortune 100 company headquartered in Pittsburgh, PA, an industrial company. And I was really happy about that. You were way too kind, but thank you. And what that meant was on my very first day, as I dressed myself like I would have dressed Midge to go to work, I went in this frosted glass door in this older building with all the marble, and I walked in, and all these guys were at their desk. It was an open room with desks, looking at the newspaper. And I said, "Good morning, I'm Peggy." One gentleman looked up over his newspaper. His name was Paul, and he said to me, "This used to be a fraternity." So that was my welcome and onboarding moment. Gee, this is really going to be a blast. And I kind of sucked up the grit a little bit. And I thought it's time to just use a little bit of grace. And I said, well, I'm really happy to be here. And I sat down at my desk, which was the only empty one, so I assumed that belonged to me. And not long afterwards, Peter came in, introduced me more to the group, and they weren't quite as cold, but they were nowhere near warm. And then we started to talk about audits that we do, and they were an international company, hundreds of locations, many of which were in the US. And we started to talk about pairing up and going on audits. I was told when I was hired that I would do 2 audits a month, which would be about 24 trips, which quite honestly, I'd never even been on vacation as a kid. I'd never been on an airplane. So this was like, oh my God, this is huge. So anyway, they started mapping out trips. By this time, Peter had gone into his office and let us get to know each other. Thanks, Peter. This should be a real good time. But they started charting out their trips. And someone said, well, I'm going to Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Someone said, I'm going to Fallens, West Virginia. Someone said, we have a trip coming up for Houston. And among themselves said, well, who's going to take her? That would be me. And I just listened. And they kind of bartered back and forth. Well, we could try her in Fallensby. It's not that big of an audit. She should do okay. Then you have to take her the next time. I will tell you a story about that a little later, but I can tell you that didn't last for too long. And things got better. And I'll tell you when and why. Another first, because I was the first female auditor, I was actually the first female in the Treasury Department for this Fortune 100 company, Koppers. And right before my first holiday luncheon, which I'd been there then about 6 months, the treasurer, Bud Vogel, asked me to come down to his office, and I did. And he said to me, today is our holiday luncheon, and I wanted to tell you something, that we always go to the Duquesne Club, which is a really super beautiful place, and an old style club, marble and granite, and really very, very lovely. And it was right downtown as well. And he went on to say, I'm really sorry, we've never had, it's usually just been all guys that go to the luncheon. And you can't come through the front door because it's a man's club. So you need to come through the back door and up the back steps. We'll meet you up in the room. Are you okay with that? Well, I think I had to be, or I wouldn't go to the luncheon. And so I said, I can do that. That's a little bit of grit. And don't worry, it'll be fine. That's the grace. So that's just what we did. I didn't say a word about it. I went to the luncheon, got upstairs, they came upstairs, we met in the room. Probably a little awkward at first, and I heard a couple of the guys who by that time we had really become much better partners and teammates. Didn't take too long. One were talking to the other and said, I wonder what's for lunch. I said, I happen to know, I just came from the kitchen. I know what's for lunch. Let me tell you what it's going to be. It really kind of broke the ice. And you know what I learned? There's a lot to learn in the kitchen. There's a lot to learn on the back step. There's a lot to learn at the back door. And don't ever stop doing that. A lot of locations I go to, I don't go through the front, I go through the back. I go up the back steps. I see what the environment's like for people. I see how safe it is for people. Because there's a lot of learning there. So I learned to take the back door, the back steps, and I knew what was for lunch. And then as I stayed in that division, I ended up becoming the first female assistant controller. By now I'm all of about 23 years old, mind you. But it was a great journey for me. And I took the place of someone who was retiring. His name was Jim Snyder. Really a smart guy and a gentleman. But as I took on that role, I kept hearing things like, do it his way, do it his way. I thought, I have my own way. And over time, I found my own way. And we all should find our way. And someday when someone takes my job, I hope they don't do it my way, because I'm sure they know a better way to get it done. So what all these things mean to me is that it gave me the opportunity to be the first for others. So I could do things and be the first for them. So what were some of my first? Was the first to offer a job sharing arrangement for people that worked for me when I was then transitioned to Mellon Bank and I ran a marketing division. There were people on my team wanted to job share. They were both having their first child. We said, let's do it. We'll be the first. We got it approved. First to offer alternative work schedules in the workplace. Someone wanted to come in early, leave early. Come in late, leave late. Sounds good to me. We were the first and we made it work. And I myself was an experiment when I wanted to go to a part-time professional position after having my second child. I wanted something part-time and professional, and I was actually a part-time recruiter. I walked away from the division head role in a different department. I couldn't wait to get to HR. And I was told, you're an experiment. We'll see how this works. We usually have part-time clericals, but if you want to try this professional role. So as a part-time professional, I was a recruiter. I was a senior recruiter. I became a team leader and ultimately was the director of employment. At which point then I actually relocated, took a full-time position, And they filled my part-time professional position with 2 more people. So I guess the experiment worked. And I couldn't have been happier, and there are many, many, many other part-time professionals throughout that company and every company today. So let's talk a little bit about forging paths and knowing gaps. There are gaps. I've had gaps, you see gaps, and we have our own gaps. So we have to ask ourselves, what are our gaps, where are we falling short, and how can we close them? It's one thing to identify the gap, it's another to take ownership for closing it. How do you chart your path forward? That comes from closing your gaps. So I would say all of you, pay attention. There's a lot going on around you all the time. Be observant, hone a good antenna. It gives you a better sense of what's going on and where those gaps might be. Partner with others. There's no journey traveled that's any better than when you do it with others. Take others with you on your path. Bring them with you and they'll take you along with them. Leverage your strengths. This is where I'll share my quick story about when I became accepted as this new auditor on the team. My strength was going into an organization or a plant, and many of these were industrial plants, and getting a sense for the people there and what they were all about. The other guys would go in and did their job well, but they went into the books and the ledgers and the inventory charts and a lot of that stuff, which I was happy to learn and do, but they weren't really quite ready to teach and engage. So they would tell me to go to the audit and audit the petty cash. Well, the petty cash was like a shoebox, right? With a couple $100. The audit ran for 4.5 days. I had that done in the first 45 minutes. I was like, now what am I going to do? So I forged my own path. I found my way. And I learned to listen to people, ask questions, note all of it, because it hasn't changed in all these years. The person that knows the most going on is the one who is closest to and supports the person in the highest level position. Back then, it was the plant's manager's assistant or the receptionist. They know what goes on. Anyway, I found a way to endear myself to those folks, hear what they had to say, pay attention, listen, and they would tell me things that worried them or concerned them or things that I should look into. So, longer story short, at the end of the day, I talked to an assistant of a plant in Guthrie, Kentucky, who told me that she was worried because she knew that her plant manager was building his own cabin out of inventoried lumber that belonged to the company. That's kind of a big deal, right? I think that's called embezzlement. So she and I went out at nighttime with our flashlights and the inventory log. That's exactly what was going on. So at the end of the week, when all the auditors, the 3 or 4 of us got together, the 2 or 3 usually went on the audit and 3 on another audit, we'd get together to talk about what we found. They were going down their list of things in accounts payable, some things in accounts receivable, and asked me, how was the petty cash? I said, petty cash was absolutely fine. However, I did find something else. They said, in the petty cash? I said, no. The plant manager is building a cabin out of inventoried lumber, and that's embezzlement. They were like, what happened? Where did this come from? All I did was find my strength. Their strength was doing a lot of what they were doing. Mine was doing a lot of what I do best, which is talking, listening, tuning my antenna, and following instincts. And that's when the tables turned. And that's where it went from who has to take her to it's my turn for Peggy. Because I brought something to the audit they didn't do. And so it was supposed to be 24 trips a year for me in my first year as an auditor, turned out to 46 cities in 52 weeks. Because I had a strength they wanted, and I loved it. I couldn't have been happier. And always care and share. Care about what you do a lot and share it with others. When you do that, you help ideate and motivate and move the path forward. So let's think about some of those gaps. And I'm sure many still exist today. There are gaps in leadership. There may be gaps in communication. There may be gaps in wages and gaps in opportunity. I have found that I can make a good dent in those gaps by learning and achieving. The more I learn, the more I achieve, the more I can do. And the more I can do, the more I can close those gaps. So by example, when you learn and achieve, you establish what your value proposition is. You determine what your purpose is. You decide your level of contribution and what that's going to mean for others. And you decide what really matters. And when you drill into that a little bit, you recognize that you have an inner compass And with will and determination, with grit and grace, you will find your way through those gaps. So the first gap is a value proposition. How can you position yourself so that you're of value to others? What is it that you do that can make a difference in what you're doing and for others that you do it for? What's your purpose? Why? What do you do? Why do you do it? And for whom do you do it? Where do you contribute? Do you drive results to the bottom line? Do you contribute to others' development? Are you working to sustain and fuel something that's really meaningful? And what matters? What matters for today? What matters for tomorrow? What matters forever? We all have the opportunity to do something of significance and meaningful that matters today, tomorrow, and forever. So one of the paths I had truly the privilege and the good fortune to forge was one as the Executive Vice President of Human Capital for WSFS Bank. They hired me about 10 years ago, and it's been a wonderful path and a great journey. And I couldn't have been more excited, actually, to reconnect with a former friend and esteemed colleague, Cindy, who's here today, who was at WSFS as well in the human capital area. And I was asked to come in and work with many great people, some of whom are here today, Patrick and Cindy, to work through talent acquisition and some of the things that were mentioned earlier, associate relations and benefits and payroll and compensation and engagement and learning and development, and then took all of that and started to build it to the next level, which then became Human Sigma, which is a scientific approach to engagement. And then it was strategy, the strategy for the company. If our strategy begins with our people, and the people are under the human resource or human capital umbrella, who better to own the strategy than someone in that job? And meanwhile, the culture is an important part. Add to that the community piece. Our community strategist is Vernita Dorsey. She was unable to be here today. She's coming back from a vacation in Florida. But that's one of our proudest moments of what we do in that world. And well-being is the next level of what was called benefits in the past, is now more about overall well-being. Communications came under that umbrella, along with customer experience. Customer experience goes two ways. Internal customers, which are those that we serve in the company, our fellow associates, and our external customer as well. So what happens in that scenario, as you're forging a path, or as I had really the honor to forge my path at WSFS, what started as the Director of Human Capital Management then got tagged with and strategy, because our strategy begins with our people. And so on occasion, I'm referred to as the Chief Human Capital Officer. That is my specific title. But time to time, I wear other hats. I get to be the Chief Strategist for the company. I get to be the Chief Culture Officer. I get to be the Chief Experience Officer. And I get to be an organizational thought leader. So I get to do all these things. And all these things are things I get to do with others who then really make a meaningful difference. What's important is in all of this is you get to be the first as you do these things. And this last note on this slide is not about me. It's about those who came before me and all those that will come after me. So for the first time this year in the annual report and the proxy, which is a publicly held company with shareholders and owners, that's our responsibility, and we're obliged to put that out there every year. After 185 years of WSFS being in operation, which again is a true honor to be part of a legacy of a great organization. But after 185 years, the publication that'll come out in April 2017, there is, for the first time, a female is listed among the named executive officers of the company. And that would be me. But that's me for others. That just means there's many others that will come after me. By the way, when I left my job as the first female auditor, they replaced me with 2 more auditors because they had an add to staff plus my replacement, both women. That's what you do. That's what you do. So along your path and along my path, I have learned that it's really important to assess the current and what's around you, and try to make it better. Think of the desired state. Look at what it is and say, this is pretty good. How do I make it great? What do I want from this? You take a look and you derive the outcomes of what that desired state looks like. You do the same with your role. What's the role as defined? I'm going to grab onto that because I think I'm going to love it. I bet I'll love it even more when I envision what it can be. And you do that by driving results. We have that opportunity to do that. I'll give you a great example. So, let's first recap a little bit. Always build a case for what you believe is the right thing to do. The right thing to do is always the way to go. That's the high road. Leverage your influence and bring others along with you. Build an inventory of skills. Never stop learning. Take on new responsibilities and enrich your experiences and experiences of others. It's always about the others that you serve. Enhance, always make your value proposition true to you and look for ways to make it even better. Someone told me one time, a long time ago, be the best you can be and try to be better than most because you will have greater opportunity. And take one step forward for yourself because you've earned it, you've worked for it. Take many steps forward for those that come after you because that's what really matters. So a path that you forge for others, we've had 2 recent acquisitions at WSFS Bank. Over the past 2 years, we acquired 2 banks, both in Southeast Pennsylvania as we expand our footprint. One was called the Alliance Bank, and the other was Penn Liberty Bank. These are huge projects. They're a huge investment. Our owners or our shareholders have great expectations for how well we integrate and convert those acquisitions. And combined, they brought over $1 billion of assets to our company. So that was big. And so who do we put in charge of that? Well, there's 3 project leads. 3 people carry the load of this very meaningful endeavor and engage a lot of others in the process. We have a senior vice president in charge of retail. I think Jaylyn knows her very well. We have a senior vice president of operations and our senior vice president of human capital services, which is Cindy, who's here today. Those 3 are all women. They're 3 women senior leaders who make that happen. Now, for you guys out there, don't feel like I'm not giving you some love. Trust me. I work with many great guys, and my life is my high school sweetheart and my 2 sons. This is an example of things that weren't necessarily there for women in the past and are now coming forward. These are opportunities, these are gaps that close little by little. And at the end of the day, our company trusts these 3 esteemed efforts to 3 of our most esteemed colleagues. And I couldn't be prouder of any one of them. So forge a path that you envision and you achieve and allow to forge that path for others as well. So as we sum up here, invest in and enrich your own value proposition. Continue to ask yourself, what do I do well and what can I do better? Drive outcomes and results. Nurture a work culture that embraces differences. The same is easy to do. Forging differences and cultivating a culture and a company that embraces differences depends on all of you. You embrace the difference. You be the difference you want to see in your organization and in the world. Keep tugging on doors, and then you hold them open for others. Many tugged on doors before me, I know that. And I still tug on doors today because it's the right thing to do. But you don't tug the door and close it. You tug the door and you keep it open for many to follow you. That's when goodness becomes greatness, and the greatness is the others. So embrace your journey with grit and grace. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and share a little bit of my story.
Let's give Ms. Eddens another round of applause for a great...
Thank you. I applaud all of you and all that you're going to do. It will be great. I know it.
So I didn't say anything about Peggy before I came to the stage, and we're going to do a couple things. Just be patient here. But, isn't it great that she's a corporate officer, and isn't it great that she's an executive vice president and a senior VP? But I hope what you saw some of today is that Peggy is a good person. And because she's a good person, she's been extremely successful. So thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.
Hey, let me just do a couple things really quick. I want to bring up Jalen to thank our, you there? Yeah. So I'm going to let Jalen, number 2, I guess. You're the number 1. Thank our speaker.
So thank you, Miss Peggy Eddens. It was a joy having you. We all appreciated your time, your PowerPoint. So on behalf of the BOA and Deep Day and the College of Business, we would just like to bestow this gift upon you.
Well, thank you so very much. I will enjoy it. I will value it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, stay with me, Peggy.
I never declined the chance to hug a good-looking young man.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's how people don't get invited back. They break all the HR rules. Hey, I've got a pair of beats here that we're going to give away.
Yay!
All right? Before we do that, I got a couple things for you. First of all, I was remiss in the beginning for not thanking the best faculty and staff, not only at Del State, but I think in the state of Delaware, who have worked very, very, very hard to pull all this off. So if you just wave your hands if you're here, come on guys, wave your, there's Brian in the back, there's Lily, a lot of you guys. Miss McCrae, wave your hand back there. Let's thank them for all their hard work. Yeah, I appreciate you. Not only do I appreciate you, I love you. And it's a fun job when you get to love your students and faculty and staff. All right, number 2, hey, for all the students, they've given me all these announcements, so let me see if I can make them all. We're going to let every one of you have a box lunch. So some of you got tickets, some of you didn't. When we are dismissed, let's see, just down the hallway outside the auditorium entrance, you'll be able to have lunch for all the work that you've done today. And Miss Frisbee, wave your hand. We'll help you figure out where to go to have lunch. Don't forget to visit our information fair tables. Don't forget we have panels at 1:30. And we will be back here for the 3 o'clock business case. I tell you, I've heard people talking a bunch of trash today. Talking about who's Dean, I'm winning. And I've heard coaches talking about Dean, I got the winning team. So we'll see what happens today. Let me see. It seems like I need to, Peggy?
Yes.
You want to come and draw the ticket?
Sure.
All right.
All right.
Who wants a pair of beats?
See.
Oh. Nobody wants a pair of beats?
All right. Now let's see.
Get your tickets out.
Get the tickets out. There you go. That's the winner. The winner is 609 8 1 1. Come on down.
Who's got it?
Come on down.
All right. Come on down and get it. Come on up here. We want to put you between us.
That's right.
Y'all don't be chill. We got some more stuff to give away.
Everyone, just relax here.
Where's Miss Crawford?
So you're all winners, just one person won, that's all. Congratulations. Good for you. Congratulations. Woohoo!
Okay, great. Miss Crawford, do we have an Apple Watch for the business case? Is that what we got?
Wow.
Lily, Miss Crawford, do we have an Apple Watch? Is that what we have? Say yes or no. Say yes or no. All right, so if you didn't get the beats, guess what? We're going to give away an Apple Watch at 3 o'clock during the business case competition. So you get another chance. All right, look, hey, thank you, everyone. Got a lot going on. Thank you again, Miss Eddens. We're dismissed.